the Israeli government, right? Most of them perhaps come from the Jewish people, okay? But they have betrayed the Jews and have agreed to be the liaisons of foreign powers that seek to destroy the Jews.
Yeah.
And so the method that they've been using is to destroy the Jewish spirit and to give them a national sense of despair. And how do they do that? Well, they make it seem as if victory is not attainable ever.
Yeah.
Okay? They get the notion out of their minds that a decisive victory where you stop your enemy from being able to cause you harm.
Yeah.
Okay? But whatever that means, okay, is available. When it is, of course it's available. It's been more available than ever. In reality, the resources and the manpower and everything, the weapons and the military strategists and the generals, Israel has everything, but the government will not allow the Jewish people to use the resources that in reality are available to them, right, to have decisive victories and to give them peace of mind. Because it's not just happening to Israel. It's not just happening to Israel. It's happening to America big time, or the Western world, where there used to be this concept of decisive victory, where you ask a man to put on a weapon and put on a uniform and go fight in a war. And, used to be that the reason why men did that was because they want to make sure that the enemy is neutralized. They're not signing up for this to go and, for conflict management. They're putting their life on the line for decisive victory so that their family and their country could be prosperous.
You know what's been the most iconic thing to me this entire time? The people, this is before October 7th, since we pulled out of Gush Katif, there's a city next in the Gaza envelope called Sderot. The people who live in Sderot, and I'm not saying they should have ever left, they should stay there, but like they insisted on staying there. They always know that they have 15 seconds to get into a shelter. Like, I've been to Sderot. They have, the parks for kids. They made this giant worm made of concrete, and it's like it's like this worm or a snake, and it's painted, with like colorful colors, so the kids think it's like a giant snake. But then they tell imagine you're a little kid and your parents tell you, since you're a little kid, okay, sweetie, if you hear the noise, go inside the worm, go inside the snake. Dude, do you have any idea how psychotic of an existence that is for a child? And they insist on living there. I'm not saying we should leave. We have to have people living there. But our government just they allowed 18 years of rockets to go at these kids, to terrorize. These kids are PTSD out of their mind.
PTSD as regular life, folks.
Yeah. So not soldiers. These are little kids. They're PTSD.
So the reason why
it's madness.
The reason why this is being done is because the powers of evil, we can have a separate discussion of what that means, right? Are against God, and they're against God's will, and they're against the people who represent God's will being done, or even the potential of God's will being done. Yeah. God communicated his will 3,336 years ago on Mount Sinai. Okay, and since that time, the forces of evil have been trying to create as much obstacles as possible. We call them the Gnostic fruitcakes. Okay, yep. They're trying to create as much barriers and obstacles and difficulties for people who are interested in observing God's will, right? What the commandments in the Hebrew Scripture. Okay, so that's what this is really all about. I actually wrote that on Twitter. I was debating whether or not, but I said, if for all those who want to skip to the end of our story, our human story here in this world, right? You want to skip to the final episode and find out what is really driving it, all the decisions of world leaders, it is this. It is to prevent Jews from fulfilling, it's to prevent Israel from being a country that observes the Torah. That's what this is all about. You might think, you know what? I'm not going to look. I state this is a statement of truth. How you react to hearing that is not my concern. But I have to state truth as I see it. Okay. So the main obstacle, right? The main obstacle is the one that's built in to the country of Israel, the modern country of Israel, whereas the Israeli leadership, right? They themselves often say to preserve the status quo, right? To not break the paradigm, right? Even Netanyahu said that we are going to preserve the status quo. The status quo is the powers of evil from outside of Israel interfering with the ability of Jews to practice the command, to fulfill the commandments as stated in the Hebrew scripture. Okay, in order to do that, Jews need to be educated in Torah. They need to understand what the commandments are. Okay, again, free will is necessary, right? And people, individuals, even Jews, right, are allowed to decide whether or not they want to fulfill it or not. But they don't have free will, because you need to know what your options are before you have free will. Israelis, the government of Israel itself, prevents most of the Jewish people in Israel from learning the Torah. It actively, they have campaigns.
They lie by omission.
Lie by omission, but they also, they have these influences in the government which are viciously anti-Torah, anti-religious. Okay, and that seeps into, that's who is in charge of all, like the institutions in Israel.
Interestingly enough, by the way, the people currently in the war cabinet who are for, the couple of people who are, at least we know for a fact that they're for decisive victory, decisive response, are people who are Torah observant Jews
to various extents, but they are geared towards Torah observance. Okay.
So and the people who are not for decisive or the people who are making the argument that only with the American administration's approval and or conjunction with, which will not be the case, should we retaliate. So there's literally the battle for the soul of Israel right now inside the war cabinet. Assuming that this is not a disinformation and a misdirection tactic on their part.
I don't feel that there's a battle that there's anything being waged. I feel like that the Jews in Israel are completely.
No, I'm talking about the war. I'm talking about the cabinet itself. I'm not talking about right now.
It's hard to believe that there's any actual, because the battle implies that there's an outcome, a possible outcome for the good. Most of the Israeli top brass, and the political class are on the side of evil.
Of course.
Okay, and they're committed to preventing Jews from learning Torah, from learning what the land of Israel really is, why they need to be there. Okay, and not Uganda or some other place. Okay, they're prevented from knowing that.